This is the story of Bisola, who had been married to her husband, Andrew, for 14 years. Together they had 4 beautiful daughters, Aisha, Kemi, Lola and Zainab. At first, Bisola felt a bit of sadness about not having a son. She worried about what Andrew might think, but Andrew will always tell her that daughters are blessings too. Each time Bisola brings up the topic about not having a son, her husband will always assure her that everything is alright. His words always comfort Bisola, and gradually they embrace their life as a family of 6. Bisola met Andrew when she was just 18 years old. He was her first love, and they built their dreams together. Over half of her life she has spent loving him. They had an unshakable bond. Bisola made it a rule never to check Andrew's phone because she trusted him completely. He had never given her a reason to doubt him. Andrew was a devoted husband and a loving father who always came home on time and cherished their family life. Their life seemed perfect. Bisola often admired how hardworking Andrew was and how he balanced work and family. She believed their love could overcome any challenge. Little did she know that this trust would be tested in ways she could never imagine. During their 14th wedding anniversary, Bisola wanted to surprise her husband Andrew and make it an unforgettable memory. Andrew was out of town for a business trip in Abuja, but he promised Bisola he'll be back for the celebration, that he's just going for a quick business trip. Determined to surprise his husband, Bisola, with the help of their daughters, planned a dinner party. Together they decorated the house with balloons and ribbons. The dining table was set with Andrew's favorite dishes. Bisola even invited some of Andrew's close friends and his younger sister, Titi, to join the celebration. As evening was approaching, Bisola and the children started getting dressed for the event. She wore the gown Andrew had bought her for their last anniversary. Aisha, Kemi, Lola and Zainab dressed up in matching outfits. They were excitedly waiting for him to walk through the door. But as the hours passed, Andrew didn't show up. Bisola called his phone repeatedly, but it was switched off. At this point, Bisola began to panic. The guests waited patiently, but by 10 p.m., they started leaving one by one. Bisola's emotion began to mix up. On one hand, she is angry that her husband didn't make it to their anniversary dinner party. But on the other hand, she's worried about the safety of her husband. Why is Andrew's phone switched off? Hope everything is right with him, she thought in her mind. Hope he's not in any kind of danger. She sat in the living room, tears streaming down her face as she held her daughters close. That night, none of them could sleep. They kept worrying about Andrew and wondering why he hadn't returned. The next morning, Bisola's phone rang at 8:30. It was her father-in-law, Baba Andrew. His voice was strained and serious. Bisola, Andrew is in St. Philip's General Hospital, Ogun State. You need to go there now, he said. Bisola's heart raced. But he's in Abuja. She stammered and confused. Before she could ask further question, the call ended abruptly. Her hands trembled as she tried to process the information. She quickly packed a bag and dropped her daughters off at her parents' house. Her mother, Iya Bisola, looked just as worried as she was. Without wasting time, Bisola boarded a bus to Ogun State. Her mind was filled with questions. Why is Andrew in Ogun? What happened to him? When she arrived at the hospital, she was directed into intensive care unit where she saw her husband battered. She was very weak. Andrew was on life support. His face was swollen and there was bruises all over his body. Tears flowed uncontrollable as she held his hand. Baby, please don't leave me. Please fight for us, she whispered to Andrew. The doctor explained to Bisola that Andrew had been stabbed 15 times. She was horrified. Who could do this to him? She asked, her voice trembling. That evening, Baba Andrew, Iya Andrew and Andrew's elder brother Kunle arrived at the hospital. It was then Bisola learned the terrible truth. That Andrew had a 3-year-old son, and Fumi, who was the mother of his 3-year-old son, had an argument with Andrew, and in a fit of rage, Fumi called her boyfriend, Dele, a cultist. Together they attacked Andrew. Bisola felt her world collapse. She had always believed Andrew loved her and their daughters unconditionally. Why did he do this to me? Was having a son worth all this pain? She sobbed. Her mother-in-law tried to console her, saying, "We warned him about that woman, but he didn't listen." Bisola was shocked on hearing this. "So you knew about this, Mama?" But the woman suddenly went mute. The betrayal cut deeper than the wounds on Andrew's body. Fumi, the woman who had stabbed Andrew, had gone into hiding, leaving Bisola to grapple with the pain and betrayal. Bisola, due to hunger, couldn't stay in the hospital anymore. She walked out, flagging down a taxi to take her to a nearby park. Her mind raced with emotion, anger, betrayal, sadness. Andrew is reaping what he sowed, she thought bitterly. Why should I stay by his side when he betrayed me? But as the taxi began to move, Bisola thought of their wedding vow, for better or worse, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. These words echoed in her mind, bringing tears to her eyes. She asked the driver to turn around and take her back to the hospital. When she returned, she sat beside Andrew, holding his hand. Despite her anger, she couldn't abandon him. "I hate you for what you did, but I can't let go," she whispered. For the next 2 weeks, Bisola stayed by Andrew's side. His parents returned to the village, and her mother came to help briefly before leaving to care for the children. Bisola put her life on hold, tending to Andrew and praying for his recovery. One evening, as she dozed off beside his bed, Andrew squeezed her hand. She opened her eyes to see him awake, tears streaming down his face. "Bisola, I'm so sorry," he whispered with his weak voice. Bisola froze, unsure how to respond. "I didn't want to hurt you. It's not my intention to hurt you. It happened by mistake," Andrew kept saying. Breaking down, Bisola heart ached. She told him to rest. "We will talk when you are stronger," she said softly. That night, Bisola held Andrew's hand as he fell asleep. She watched him closely, her emotion torn between love and anger. In the early hours of the morning, the worst of them all happened. Bisola's world came crashing as Andrew's chest stopped rising. The machine that keeps track of his breathing went flat. "Andrew!" Bisola screamed, shaking him. Nurses rushed in, but it was too late. Andrew was gone. Bisola collapsed on the floor, crying uncontrollably. The man she had loved for over half of her life was gone, leaving behind a trail of pain and unanswered questions. 2 weeks after Andrew's burial, Bisola returned home to face a new challenge. The once warm and lively house felt cold and empty. Her daughters tried to bring some life back into their days, but they kept asking the question, "Mama, where is Daddy? When is he coming back?" Aisha, the eldest, asked one evening, "Mama, when is Daddy going to come back?" Bisola could not only manage a weak smile as she said, "Daddy is resting now." One afternoon, as Bisola sat in the living room, 2 men knocked on the door. "Madam, this house has been sold. You are required to vacate before the end of the month." One of them, a lawyer, stated firmly. Bisola was stunned. "Sold? How? This house belongs to me and my husband," she exclaimed. The lawyer handed her documents showing that Fumi had sold the house to a new buyer just days before Andrew's death. Bisola's world crumbled again. Fumi is on the run. How could she sell a house that is not hers? Bisola shouted. The lawyer simply shrugged and left. Desperate to understand what was happening, Bisola went to the bank to inquire about Andrew's finances. The bank manager told her that her husband changed his next of kin to his son, David, 3 years ago, he said, handing over a copy of updated file. Bisola stared at the paper in disbelief. He took me off. Why? I stood by him through everything, she whispered. Her heart raced as the reality sank in. Not only had Andrew betrayed her with another woman, but he had also left her with their daughter with nothing. Bisola returned home feeling defeated. She looked at her daughters and thought, I must fight for them. I will not let anyone take away what we built. As if things couldn't get worse, Baba Andrew and Kunle, Andrew's eldest brother, visited Bisola the next day. We need to talk about the house, Kunle stayed sternly. Bisola, still mourning and exhausted, led them in. Kunle wasted no time. He said, this house belongs to the family. Andrew's only son is the rightful heir, he declared. Bisola felt her blood boil. Rightful heir? What about me and my daughters? We lived here. We built this house together, she shot back. Baba Andrew shook his head. It is tradition, Bisola. The male child carries the family name. We warned Andrew about that woman, but he didn't listen. Now we must ensure his son gets what he deserves. Bisola refused to back down. This house is mine too. I won't let any of you take it from me and my daughters, she said firmly. The tension escalated when a mysterious lawyer appeared during a family meeting. I represent David, Andrew's son, the man announced. Bisola's jaw dropped. What do you mean? She asked. The lawyer handed over a document, a supposed will written by Andrew. It stated all his assets, including the house, were to go to his son, David. This is impossible. Andrew never mentioned the will, Bisola exclaimed. Baba Andrew and Kunle seemed to support the lawyer's claim. If this is Andrew's wish, we must honor it. Baba Andrew said. Bisola, however, wasn't convinced. This will is fake and I will prove it, she vowed. Bisola sought the help of a lawyer, Mr. Adekunle, to file the claim. This will has inconsistencies. The handwriting doesn't match Andrew's, and there are no witnesses to confirm it, Mr. Adekunle noted. Meanwhile, Bisola began gathering evidence to prove her contribution to the house. She found receipts, pictures, and even messages from Andrew that showed that they built the house together. Her daughters, especially Aisha, helped her to organize the document. We will fight this together, Mama, Aisha said, giving her a hug. Bisola's hope came alive. They can try, but I won't let them take what belongs to us. Just as the court battle began, news broke that Fumi had been captured. She was arrested in a neighboring state, hiding with the relatives. The police charged her with conspiracy to commit murder, forgery, and fraud. In court, Dele, Fumi's boyfriend, testified against her, revealing how she had planned the attack on Andrew and forged the document to sell the house. Fumi's capture brought a mix of relief and anger to Bisola. At least now the truth can come out, she thought. During the court proceedings, Mr. Adekunle presented evidence that the will was fake. A handwriting expert testified that the signature on the will did not match Andrew's. The mysterious lawyer, Conrad, admitted under pressure that he had been hired by Fumi to forge the will and represent her son's interest. The court erupted in whisper as the judge ordered the lawyer's arrest. This is fraud of the highest order, the judge declared. After weeks of intense legal battle, the court finally ruled in Bisola's favor. The judge declared the sale of the house invalid and awarded full ownership to Bisola and her daughters. Tears streamed down Bisola's face as she hugged her children. We did it. This house is ours, she said. Baba Andrew and Kunle, humiliated by the outcome, left quietly. Fumi faced additional charge for her crimes, ensuring she would not disturb Bisola's life again. As Bisola stood in the house she had fought so hard to keep, she felt a renewed sense of strength. For my daughters, I'll always fight, she vowed, ready to rebuild their lives from the ashes of betrayal. At the end, Bisola learned that Fumi was Andrew's ex-girlfriend that determined he would destroy him because he didn't marry her. The son she had for her husband was as a result of carelessness on the side of her husband. Fumi, with the help of Andrew's friends, had invited Andrew for an in-house party of one of her colleagues. During the party, Andrew's drink was laced with some substance that made him very high, and he slept with her as a result of the substance. When Andrew got to notice what happened that night, Fumi was already pregnant for him. Determined to protect his marriage for the love he had for Bisola, he promised Fumi not to make it known to anybody that he'll be providing for her anything she wants. Fumi has blackmailed Andrew to do many things for her, even to the extent of telling Andrew to will all his properties in her name. After all, she has given him a son. Andrew, remembering all she went through with Bisola and how she stood with him through thick and thin, said no to her request and promised to let her wife know of his secret. Fumi, on hearing this, decided to deal with Andrew. Few things I learned from this story. Never keep a secret from your spouse, especially if both of you are in love with each other. Communication will always be key. Had it been Andrew had let his wife Bisola know about his relationship with Fumi, maybe he might not ended the way he did. Maybe together they would fight Fumi. Another lesson I learned is never underestimate the role of kindness in a person. When entering into a relationship or even marriage, make sure the person you are dealing with is kind. You might think it does not matter in relationship if you are not planning to marry the person. Remember that sometimes the success of our future is determined by what we have done in the past. Just like Andrew, his past life haunted him and destroyed his beautiful life with his family. What about you, my lovely viewers? What stood out for you in this story? Comment down below your thoughts, and if you have enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more stories like this. Thank you for watching and God bless you. Bye.